Hello, I'm Art Francisco,
And I am Andrew G.
and this is the Marxist line. It's week 76, August 1st.
Yeah. So, for those of you who joined us last week, we are changing up the format a little bit here over the next few weeks. So yeah, give us some patience here. And so this week we have some reporting on what's going on with Art's situation and the Carpenters in Western Washington. Is that correct, Art? And then
Right.
we got a couple things on what do we have on current events there, Art?
We'll talk about a report from People's Voice in Cuba, as well as the passing of journalist and activist and editor of the BAR, Glen Ford.
Yeah, and then rounding it off, I guess we got some we got this we got a video by Hasanabi, another one that we're gonna
Yeah.
discuss here.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Hassan.
So yeah, let's you want to jump into the what's going on in with the Carpenters? Is that
Yeah.
better?
Um, so I, I've I've stayed pretty tight-lipped on Facebook, um, and and in most social media about this outside of the Carpenters Union. I think for good reason. Um, I'm one of the primary organizers of this, and I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything, but uh, I've been
No,
organizing
no,
this for like
but I still think I think that's important for people to get across that are just more. I mean,
I
I
have
think
to take
Canadians are,
responsibility as well, right? So
yeah,
it's like um so and so I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm saying it because I have to take responsibility for the work I've been doing. And I think it's important to take responsibility as a leader. And I've been working on this for years. This is my life's work pretty much. I am a union carpenter, and out of local 30 in Seattle, and which is basically one. It's still one of the construction hubs of the entire United States, and I think it's important. It's one of the most important unions historically in the United States. Um, and Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. And so anyway, I have not posted much on Facebook, on my personal Facebook page, uh, because I live in Seattle, which is a kind of a radical leftist stronghold in the US, and I don't want the left involved right now.
yeah.
Um
What can you? I mean, can you tell me why? Tell us why. What
yes, and it's
basically?
because I I think uh and I think this is a reasonable decision and analysis is that I think that the left is too immature, and right now too it's too immature to be able to engage with this kind of situation in a mature fashion. um and it will basically mess up what I am doing. It will do way more harm than good at this point.
All right, fair enough.
And there's just too much opportunism in the left. As far as Marxist goes, we have this show, we cover the Marxist community. I myself consider myself a Marxist. But I don't we don't have support of other Marxists.
No,
Right? And
no.
we cover other Marxists all the time. I think it's still important to engage with the Marxist community and to cover them and to try to create dialogue. But from what we've reported on, our analysis, um, I don't think anyone really, broadly speaking, I mean, there's a few individuals maybe in circumstance in certain situations, but broadly speaking, the Marxist community is not ready to engage with the working class in a serious way. Sad to say, it's not.
Yeah,
No.
I agree. Yeah.
Will we?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we're not going to get into too much, but we've laid out plenty of reasons the last couple years on this show. So
Right, right. The last couple of years, we've laid out our reasons. We've reported. We've tried to keep an open mind on things.
yeah,
Right, and but the evidence is there. It's on YouTube. Before that, it was on Twitch. We've asked for help for this show. We've got none, zero. And so the evidence is there, and we've built our case.
yeah,
That's what this show has been. It's been a case building project as well as a analytical project, and as well as a news service. And so, and which I think is all very important. Um, so, so back to the Carpenters. So I will have the information that I am going to share. That is going to go on the show. It's an exclusive for the show. So,
right.
so to if you want to learn about what's going on in the Carpenters Union, it's only happening on this show. I will not talk about it on Facebook publicly. And this is my way of holding myself accountable, because there needs to be some public accountability for what I'm doing in the Carpenters Union by comrades. You know,
Okay.
I feel like I owe it to comrades, even though, like, I think that most comrades are dysfunctional and their heads are up their asses. But I do owe it to be accountable for what I'm doing, and right or wrong what I'm doing, I need to show what I'm doing. So if there are lessons to be made or criticisms, it can be done.
All right. So
Right.
what do you have? What do you have for us this week then?
Okay, so this week, so well, let's just kind of do a quick recap of what's going on.
Okay, yeah, give us a quick recap from on what's going on quickly, and what's happened over the past week.
Right, because so I'm in the Carpenters Union. I've been a carpenter since 2007. Actually, I went to Job Corps in 2006 to enter the apprenticeship program, and I officially joined in 07. So it's been almost 15 years. And for the last 10 years, I've become more and more vocal. And so I really began to hammer as an activist within the union. And so 3 years ago, the Carpenters, I would say 6 years ago, I began strongly agitating for contracts to build like a rank and file group. And then 3 years ago, which was during the big building boom, we got a contract where many carpenters were very unsatisfied, because it was a great building boom. The carpenters have been taking cutbacks and very minimum wage increases for years and years and years. And their wages have drastically fallen behind the other trades, and have fallen behind the cost of living despite the fact that Seattle's economy is taken off the way San Francisco has. San Francisco is the most expensive city in the United States to live in.
Yeah.
And so it's basically mirrored San Francisco with the tech boom and all that. And so 3 years ago, I organized a group of carpenters, and I did it kind of as an act of protest against the union leadership, and said, look, they're gonna ban me from talking and criticizing the contract. I'm just gonna start my own group. And that group quickly went viral, and it grew to over 1,500 members very quickly within 1 week. And it quickly became the largest online group of carpenters in the Pacific Northwest. Larger, and it became larger than several different locals, like actual locals of carpenters.
Yeah.
And the leadership quickly took notice, and their first reaction was to attack it and to attack me. But I kept a cool head, which is good. I didn't say anything too wild, which is good. Even though, like, so basically the group had Wildcat in the name, but I didn't publicly call for a Wildcat. I said I supported a Wildcat, but I would not call for one.
Save that for later?
Yeah, and it's important. The language is important because that's how you can get expelled very quickly.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the group was responsible for shutting down the first 2 tentative agreements, and it was responsible for organizing a lot of carpenters. And by the 3rd tentative agreement, the leadership began threatening the members, and not only attacking me and the members of the group, but threatening them with basically, you'll be left out of the raise. And it specifically went after carpenters that are working under what's called project labor agreements, which are separate contracts with like the cities and that kind of thing for, let's say, highways and light rail, and so bridges. A lot of those are under project labor agreements with companies that are not union. And those project labor agreement contracts are kind of like are separate, independent contracts that are not collectively negotiated on.
Yeah.
In the same way. And so the union went after those carpenters, and because they still voted on the main contract, and was able to split the vote. And so the result was that the 3rd tentative agreement was passed. And this year is 3 years later. This year, a new round of negotiations happened, and I personally did not expect much, but the first tentative agreement was shut down with 76% no. So 3 out of every 4 carpenters rejected it.
Yeah.
That voted.
What
and
was
then
the first offer like? Was it like, I mean,
the first offer was close to $9 over 3 years.
$9 over 3 years,
which is still under right. It was a little less than 4% per year.
Yeah.
But it was still under the rising cost of inflation, which is at 5% for the CPI.
Yeah.
And a lot of carpenters became educated on rising inflation, because that's been the talk of the year, actually. Like, we've talked about it here on the show,
Yeah.
that it's an issue. And so a lot of carpenters were educated on that, and they're like, no, if our wages don't keep up with inflation, then we're making less. And so they rejected it, and then sometime before the second tentative agreement was voted on, the carpenters over on the Microsoft campus began to really get organized. Someone there was organizing them, and it wasn't me. I don't work at Microsoft.
No.
And I think it was probably someone associated with our group, but it was kind of funny, because a business agent went over there to push for a yes vote on the second contract, the second proposal. And that business agent's named Jim Sines, and so he went over there to push for that really hard, and during a lunch break, I believe, and it irritated the hell out of everybody there at the Microsoft campus. And for anybody that doesn't know, the Microsoft campus is currently the biggest job on the West Coast. And I have exclusive video footage from that I'll only play here.
Yeah. So can you tell us what exactly is the Microsoft campus? What are they aiming to do there?
So the Microsoft campus in Redmond is where Microsoft is at, which is it's so if you look at the city of Seattle, there's a big lake right in the middle, Lake Washington. Yeah. And Seattle is on the ocean side of this lake. There's the ocean, which is the ocean has a sound. A sound is kind of like a bay. And the bay goes down and it dips in. You can see it in Washington. It creates that peninsula. And then Seattle is basically right along that bay. And then and that's on the west side of Seattle. And on the east side of Seattle, there's a giant lake. It's called Lake Washington. And on the opposite side of that lake is Bellevue, the city of Bellevue. And that is basically a very wealthy town. It was basically founded by a billionaire family, which was it was a backer of Donald Trump. That was it's escaping my mind right now. I'll probably think of the name of the family later, but but basically it's a billionaire family that founded that town, Bellevue, that city. It's an edge city, and basically for the wealthy. And then right outside of that is another town called Redmond, and that's where Microsoft is at. It's basically sandwiched in between, right around in Redmond, just outside of Bellevue, and that's the Microsoft campus, where Bill Gates, basically ran his operations. And
so are they expanding it? That's what I'm wondering.
Yes, as I understand it, they're greatly expanding it. Like, so every building will be expanding on the campus. And to put it into perspective, they built 9 miles of temporary road. So there's roads within the campus to get from building to building, but there's 9 miles of temporary road, paved temporary road that will go away when they're done with construction.
Yeah.
So that should just help to paint a picture of how big this project is. There was a lunch shack built for 500 construction workers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play a video from inside the campus. You just give me a moment.
All right, let's have a look. See.
Let me make sure that the sound is working too on this thing. It should be good.
Yeah.
Are you let me know if you can hear it, Andrew.
I can't hear it yet.
Can you hear that?
No, can't hear it.
Hang on.
Do you have our shared screen on on YouTube? No, I can't hear that yet.
All right. Let me check my sound settings real quick.
All right.
We were having some sound issues just shortly before the show. But different sound issues.
Yeah.
All right. I think I know what the issue is. I need to check my sound settings because we haven't played a video.
No, we haven't played a video in a while.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever actually played a video outside of YouTube.
We commented on. We did a
on YouTube.
Comment on, yeah.
This is not YouTube. This was actually uploaded to YouTube and Facebook, and then it was removed.
Okay.
Let's see. I think this is it.
No luck yet?
It should. It's the sound is very low, which I don't know.
There we go.
We don't do this shit. They're gonna walk all over us like they did last time, and they'll continue to do it. We're the only regional council that votes man for man. All the rest of them have electoral people that vote for them. Last time.
All of these workers are carpenters, by the way. This doesn't include the other trades.
So this is a lunch. Are they having a meeting here, or what's going on?
Yes, this is a meeting where the business agent is pushing for
a yes vote.
For a yes vote.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's I don't think that's the business agent speaking though.
Okay.
I haven't confirmed that, but I don't think that's a business agent speaking.
International came in and said they'll take the contract. That's why we got screwed. We can show 51% of our union standing behind each other. We have the right to fight for our wages. We can't get brothers to get off their ass and vote. Go to the meeting. You're cutting your union down, throwing it apart, tearing it down, making it weaker. I've been in this union 16 years. They promised us we're going to get good wages. We've gotten very good wages, but they haven't given us anything fat and juicy. And they need to start doing that shit. I mean, we lost $200 million, then we're supposed to take our money and put it in a high risk, high return. Where are they going to get it from? They're going to get it from this room right here. Out of our pocket. They took our dollar away from us, they ain't giving it back. Everything is got to be allocated for all the money being spent. Where the hell are they going to put it? I've been telling guys, my opinion is, come on, $15 an hour, $2.50 go towards the trust, and they do the math with 10,000 guys, $20-some thousand an hour per kid. make you live off of that. 250 goes into our vacation fund. If that money goes into our vacation fund, they can't touch it. We've been at $1 an hour for 60 years I've been in for vacation. Everywhere else in the nation, way more than that. Some are $5, some are $6 an hour. You can take a nice vacation on that kind of money. $1 an hour, you ain't getting shit. All that stuff, we gotta tell our youth what we want to have, instead of them dictating to us. If we stand around and don't do shit and don't make fucking tidal waves, dude, they're gonna roll right over our fucking backs again.
All right, so, can't hear really what's going on. So can you explain it?
Yeah, let me just turn you down a little bit, Andrew. 'Cause
Okay.
the audio for the video is a lot lower than your audio.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so this guy's basically saying, look, if we don't vote down the contract, they're just gonna roll right over us. And that's what it sounds like. And I don't think he's the business agent, but I know the business agent spoke to these guys and basically pushed for this yes vote that all these guys strongly oppose, that they're talking about opposing.
Yeah.
They're talking about opposing it openly on the biggest job on the West Coast while working for some of the biggest construction contractors in the world.
Yeah.
These are massive corporations.
Yeah.
Microsoft's a massive corporation. And so so basically the business agent showed up and pushed for this, and they told him to leave, to get out and leave. Like, and they were yelling at him. And it got real heated. And when this video was leaked out, it was leaked, and it went to YouTube and Facebook. And when it was leaked out, it wasn't removed immediately. It basically got shared everywhere. And it almost went viral within the union, basically. And many people, after seeing this, changed their minds to oppose the contract. And they realized that the business agents were pushing for this yes vote, and that they got really angry about it, and it fired people up.
Yeah.
So the second tentative agreement was voted down 52% to 48%, and so it became much closer than the first one. And Evelyn Shapiro, that's the EST, the head of the 6-state region of the Pacific Northwest, she held a big Zoom meeting, and they rented a one of the auditorium conference halls at the Hyatt Hotel in South Seattle. And so they rented that out to have this big Zoom call. And I asked Evelyn, who is the supervisor for these business agents that have been going to the job sites pushing for a yes vote? Because they need to be held accountable, and they need to apologize for what they've been doing for pushing for a yes vote, because this is voter intimidation.
Yeah.
And we want to know who the supervisor is to hold them accountable. And we want them to be reprimanded. And I knew the answer to my question before I asked it, but I know a lot of members didn't know the answer. And so the question was intentional to put Evelyn in a difficult place.
And so how did she respond?
So she responded, I will not reprimand any business agent. I told Jim Sines to go to Microsoft, and he did his job.
Yeah.
And I won't reprimand anyone because a union is not neutral. And our bargaining committee said to vote for this contract. And so we are only pushing what the bargaining committee wanted. And the point of my question was to hold her accountable. And
so is this a good example of like what's wrong, what you've talked about unions over the years and the basic, the basic flaws and within the union structure now that they're just did you honestly you saw this as a pretty shitty first deal?
well, yeah, like the there was a lot of people in the left that had illusions in Evelyn Shapiro because Evelyn's actually from a family of left-wing activists.
Yeah.
And so they had illusions in that, and especially that she's the first female executive secretary treasurer in the nation of the building trades, breaking glass ceilings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there was no criticism or accountability. And the thing that I intended was, I know people are angry about the business agents. I mean, I'm angry too, but about the business agents pushing for a yes vote. But it's the business agents are small fish, and it's important to figure out who's telling the business agents to do this. And I knew the answer, before she gave it. But I was a little bit taken aback by how willing she was to admit that she is the one that ordered it. And she basically tried to own it, right? Like,
yeah.
She's doing a good job by owning it, and she's not scared because she's doing the right thing by telling them to do that, which is not true. And so it basically provided me with the ammunition I needed. That she's abusing her power. And so that worked out, I think. And the Microsoft campus continues to this day, as I understand, to oppose the contract. In fact, for a while they were talking about a wildcat strike, and the union sent out mass texts about how a wildcat strike is illegal. Because if this job were to strike or wildcat, it's very possible, I think, that other job sites would follow, that it would domino. And I think that the union has calculated that as well, because this is the biggest job in the West Coast.
So they're saying it's illegal?
Yes.
What? How is it?
Because it would be an unsanctioned strike.
Because I mean, as far as I know,
it'd be outside of the contract.
You can't. I mean, there's essential services, and this doesn't seem like an essential service. So,
it's because of the Department of Labor and all that. So
yeah, okay,
it'd be a violation of good faith negotiations and that kind of thing. But yeah, so this was a huge deal when this video got leaked out.
Yeah.
And a lot of carpenters saw it. They knew it was a huge deal because this is the biggest job in the area, on the whole West Coast. This is the biggest job. And it's like, hey, if those guys are going to go, then that means anybody can go. Anything can happen. And so it was very important for the rep to try to get these guys under control, and he failed. And so fast forward a little bit, TA2 gets rejected. We're on TA3 now. We got notified that the third tentative agreement was negotiated on Thursday. And the third tentative agreement basically mirrored the second one, almost word for
Well,
word,
so what's different?
almost penny for penny, even.
Penny.
And with a few extra cents, sprinkled in, and then there was language in the second one that 50% of your wages could not be reallocated into your benefits. So in other words, you had your wages, right? Like,
Yeah.
$2 and then 75 cents into benefits. Well, every negotiation, what they do is they underfund the benefits, and then they don't tell you they're underfunding the benefits. And what ends up happening is they still have to fund the benefits, and they have the power to take it out of your wages without a vote. And so they have the power to take out of your wages without a vote. So you think you're going to get, say, $1.50 raise for that year, but then they take 50 cents out. Now you're only getting $1 that year.
Yeah.
And guys are starting to catch on to what's going on, because it's every 3 years it's happening. And so they added language in this last contract that they would only be able to take out half of your wages to fund the benefits. And so the third tentative agreement, they took that language out as if it was a good thing. So now they can take 100% if they wanted to.
So obviously this is probably going to get, it's going to get shot down.
Maybe. It's also clear to remember that the second tentative agreement was 52 to 48. Now, one reason why I was 50
close.
Yeah, it was very close. But one reason that it was 52 to 48 is the union leadership did drive up participation. And they drove up overall participation in the vote. And so that, of course, was able to flood the vote with yes votes. They drove it up with yes votes. You should vote on this contract. In fact, they even called it historic. This contract is historic. It's the best one we've had ever, which is a pretty low. There's already a pretty low bar to get over.
Yeah.
So and most members knew that. And so because they sprung the new agreement, the third proposal on us very quickly, I knew that we didn't have very much time to do something, and we were already planning on having a rally or a march. And so I called for a last minute, like very last minute, I called for a rally in front of the AGC offices. The AGC is the Association of General Contractors, and that's who we as carpenters negotiate with.
Yeah.
They represent the contractors. And so I called for a rally, and 105 guys showed up, which is very good. 3 years ago, I called for rallies. I couldn't get more than 20 to show up. And 20 was like a big number back then. And so I only expected maybe 20 would show up Friday, but 105 showed up, and many called in and said they couldn't make it because they wanted to, but they couldn't make it. And because it was such short notice.
So where was this rally?
Well, it was downtown Seattle over in South Lake Union, right outside of the AGC offices. I have some video footage of that as well.
Yeah, okay.
So let me put that on. So this is the march to the AGC headquarters. Let me find a longer video. There's several videos here.
All right, you find the video. I gotta go watch it.
Yeah, go for it.
Like, think about how many job sites you've been.
All right, you got the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
On and how many projects you've done where you've done a whole lot with a lot less guys than what's right here. You know? Yeah, Evelyn's definitely fucking us. And it's not just Evelyn. Evelyn's I'm not gonna ever, and I'm not making excuses up for Evelyn at all. It's bigger than Evelyn. It goes all the way up to the head of this union, to Doug McCarran, who's Evelyn's boss. And he's the guy that's been fucking over Carpenters way before Evelyn had her bags on. All right? And he's the one that basically got her where she is. And before that, he was messing with Doug Tweedy, who was Evelyn's boss before she became the EST of the Northwest Carpenters. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we used to get letters from Doug Tweedy, and he would sign every single letter CEO, Chief Executive Officer, like he was the head of some billion-dollar corporation, and that we were his freaking workers. Right. And this is a union. We don't have fucking CEOs. So here's the thing. We got a lot of guys. I know a lot of you guys want to march on the agency and show them how strong we are, but I don't want to end it there. I say we go over there, we continue the rally there, because now we're all freaking crewed up here, and then we talk about the next steps after. What I don't want to see is everybody going home afterwards and forgetting. I don't want to see this contract falling on its head and everybody getting butt hurt and not talking to each other for 3 more years, and then all of a sudden 3 years down the road we're getting fucked again, and then all of a sudden you guys got a fire under your ass. All right? We got to keep this momentum up, and the only way we're going to do it is to network with each other, to make sure we're in touch, to keep having meetings, to have meetings in the north side, the south side, and the east side, and downtown Seattle. We can have our own meetings. We don't need the Union Hall to have meetings. All right? We can have our own meetings.
Okay, so when was this?
This was Friday.
Friday. So how did everybody respond to that?
They're cheering.
I mean, so
video.
have you got like? I mean, I see that, but since then, I mean, do you feel this network growing? Do you feel like the workers communicating to each other?
I do. Actually, I do.
Yeah.
I I feel like it much more than 3 years ago, actually.
Well, that's good then.
And there's another rally due for Monday.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a Monday rally planned, and I think it's going to be bigger, actually.
All right. Are you gonna speak at this one too?
Yes, because I called for it.
Okay. Yeah. All
I'm
right.
organizing it.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, then that makes sense. Then that's good.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know you called. You didn't sound like he. I didn't know if you called for this one. So yeah.
I called for both. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And that's me. And so
Yeah, I figured that.
yeah, and so like there's one more video here. I'll play this one.
Week after week, because that's the only way you.
This is this guy is with the group or he was with the group Socialist Alternative, but he's also a union iron worker, and I know him from construction work.
Okay.
Afford your fucking house payment. The only way you might be able to go hunting, take a fishing trip, take your fucking family out on vacation. Right. You're gonna have to read the voice.
Hell yeah.
This is not how Socialist Alternative did not teach him to speak this way, by the way.
Okay.
It's a very docile Trotskyist group.
Yeah. So he's an iron worker?
Yes, he's an iron worker, and he introduced himself as an iron worker.
Okay. So was he talking at for the Carpenters?
Yes. I introduced him as an iron worker, and I said, hey, we have an iron worker here who supports us. Is it all right if he has a few words with us?
Okay, so that's good. Broadening a little
Right.
class consciousness, solidarity.
Right.
Yeah.
Out for a minute, brothers. Thank you for showing up. My name's Calvin Barna. Yeah. Calvin! Yeah! I would give my life for you guys to have the rights and conditions you have right now, and they're slipping away. I talked about it 3 years ago. Grab the mic, bud. Battery's dead. The battery's about as live as our contract is. I want to talk about the Fuck yeah, bud. I want to talk about the payout. I want to talk about what's really going on. I want to talk about the pay scale for our reps. Guaranteed $105K a year with 2 pensions. That's no matter where in the region, Montana, Idaho. What's a journeyman carpenter making in Idaho right now? $28 an hour. If that. But the reps are clocking 105. Now here's the truth. Because Evelyn set it up that way so she could bot and pay them. My close friend, Devin Davies, was a rep. They axed him out. They said, you're not going to get your payment, your pensions, unless you sign these non-disclosure, I won't hush money, take this severance package. So they hold his pension hostage. I have personal information of this. This is what's going on. We're bought and paid for. Evelyn works for them. All our reps work for them. Why are they calling us saying yes? Why every other trade, every other union,
Fuck them.
they see what's happening.
How do we fire them?
They spend all their resources. Every single rep. I got called from Montana and told to vote yes. That's standing against our brothers and sisters. I literally am dying. I have vascular disease. They can't save me. I'm done working. Medical retirement. There's my wife. They handed me $15,000 helping hands money right before all this started. They know my videos get 5,000 views. They know I speak in front of Senate. Yeah.
Yeah, so So people were pretty fired up, bottom line.
Okay, that's good. All right, so is that your coverage for this week? You wanna, and then should
Yeah.
we, or what have you closing thoughts on this, and then you'll update us next week?
Yeah, so closing thoughts. We're having another rally coming up this week. And
Tomorrow, you said.
right, and the plan is to begin having our own meetings. To funnel the rally into independent meetings, not the Union Hall. For years, and I'm just going to pick on the Trotskyists because this is true. The Trotskyists have tried to funnel any kind of momentum into the Union Hall directly, and it's been a failure. And I've argued against this for years. And so we're going to try to have our own meetings. And I'm hoping that we can have a meeting right after the rally. And not to get locked into, hey, we're just going to protest. Protesting's fun, but it only has so much productive value. It's important to keep the morale up, but we have to decide, we have to have a strategy on what to do next. And the strategy is to have our own meetings and to build our own organization. And someone actually suggested, and I think it's a very good suggestion, that we call our group the Peter McGuire group. So I'll be introducing that suggestion at the rally. And Peter McGuire was the founder of the Carpenters Union. And I think it's a really good idea. He is basically one of the best organizers in the country, and he's kind of like the hero of the Carpenters Union. And so the idea is, if we name ourselves after the hero of the Carpenters Union, it'll make it very difficult to press for dissension charges against us that we're trying to like destroy the union or something like that.
All right.
And it'll be very difficult to attack us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. Let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about Cuba.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to touch on that quickly because I was like, I messaged these guys and it says, and it's good that we started off with your exclusive, because this is exactly what I asked of People's Voice. I'm like, you've got an exclusive, but you've got like no pictures,
Right.
no interviews, no video, no nothing. So, not that maybe I don't doubt what they wrote in there. It's very plausible, but come on, you got somebody down there and they're not taking any kind of photos or video or anything with his cell phone and stuff.
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff we need. So I posted on their website and stuff, and that's only the only point that I want to bring up, not so much what's in the article yet. And I'm hoping that I'll hear back from them, because I was like, can we get some photos and videos or some interviews or something to establish your some credibility here? Because I mean,
Right.
exclusive.
Well, let's explain what the article is. It says it's written by Catherine Guerrera, and and so she introduces herself as a Canadian with family members that live in Cuba.
Yeah.
And she says who was in Cuba during the anti-government protests. I'm assuming that's her family that was there. So I don't know if she was there. The protest that occurred on the 11th. I mean, it might have been her. that was there. But
That's what it sounds like in the in that, because
right,
they promote it as an exclusive. So
sure.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, maybe they need some more clarity on that. I
But
posted.
but
Yeah.
regardless of whether it was her or a family, I think there's a lot of good information here.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the she mentioned that basically there was like this flood of like Twitter bots that kind of came out and pushed for things, and that a lot of people were upset because there just wasn't enough supplies in the stores.
Yeah.
As well as like, and there's as well as the rising COVID-19 cases. And
I want to ask you though, because I mean, I haven't heard of this. I haven't heard in Canada in the media here calling for it, but I mean, has there been calls in the U.S. media for since these demonstrations? Because it says in the article there's been calls for troops into Cuba and stuff like that. And an invasion.
probably I don't watch the news.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It
All
it
right.
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But because there's been calls like that for years and years and years. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Absolutely.
and especially from the Cuban community, and so and there were troops sent to Cuba.
Cuban exile community.
And there were troops that were sent to Cuba at one time. That was what the Bay of Pigs invasion was.
Yeah.
And so now a couple of things that were interesting is that she said that there are barely hundreds of protesters in Cuba, anti-government protesters in Cuba in a country of 11 million people, and that there are thousands of pro-government protesters. I don't know if those numbers are accurate. I need to see evidence.
I need to see evidence,
and that's one of the reasons why I've held off like any big, either criticisms or support of the protesters in Cuba, is because it's like, okay, well, who's protesting and how many of them are there? Yeah. And I know there's a lot of disinformation on this.
Yeah, I mean, it says that in the article, it says it's more, they are united, but there are some protests, but they're united in this, because there is a lot of anti-American sentiment down in Cuba.
Sure.
Which is absolutely believable. I mean that, they may have protests against about some of the policies of the government, but they're united in not having a U.S. imperialist force in their country, or any kind of like so-called help from the Americans in that regard. So I mean, that's common. I mean, that seems like common sense to me. But I would like to see more of the numbers on, like, I mean, it's pretty obvious, the effects that the embargo is having on Cuba.
The other thing she says is most of the participants were not doctors, nurses, teachers, engineers, lawyers, business owners or professionals or in the tourism sector, but they were unemployed and lived off remittances from family living abroad.
Yeah.
And then they're well-known delinquents and not positive contributors to the community. I don't know. And what that means.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's common political rhetoric going back and forth here. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'd like to see, more evidence, and some firsthand accounts, as opposed to just writing about this.
Right.
So I think that's where we can have some more clarity. And I mean, those are only, that's my basic thoughts right now. Do you have anything else on this?
Um, I think it's true. There's a lot of disinformation, and that there's bots and there's political subterfuge by the United States and Cuba. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is true. And I think it's true that Miami is involved. Um, and so it's important to, I think it's important to be skeptical when it comes to Cuba of what's going on.
Yeah.
And basically, you know,
Skeptical, but still supporting, legitimate grievances,
well, yeah, the
by
grievances are one thing, but I think it's really important to retain a lot of healthy skepticism,
yeah,
and
especially,
to demand evidence.
because I mean, there are legitimate grievances, because, this the obvious effects of the embargo. So, I mean, I think it's our job also to, to condone that.
Well, there's evidence of an embargo.
Yeah. What's that?
I said there's evidence of an embargo.
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can of course oppose the embargo. Like, yeah, but yeah, like, anyway, I do welcome an eyewitness account. I felt like it didn't like completely like convince me of a lot of things, but I think it had some good information. And it was okay, I mean, as far as that goes. I mean, I've definitely seen worse, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. As far as information, yeah, because generally their articles have been lacking. So I mean, I thought
Right, it was
this-
definitely, it was okay for People's Voice of Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually, I mean, they're kind of like bottom of the. Anyways, yeah. All right. So why don't you talk about this Truthout article on Glen Ford and give us a little
Okay.
introduction on.
Yeah.
Ford
So
was-
Glenn Ford, I was kind of surprised. He passed away and this week, and he so he was the editor of Black Agenda Report, and a longtime activist, and and writer, and an editor. And so I followed Black Agenda Report for a while, like since I was in my 20s, and I've definitely had like a love-hate relationship with it over the years.
Yeah.
They can say some things that are very good and insightful, that you can't read in many places. And then at the same time, since the Arab Spring, especially since the uprising in Libya and in Syria, they said a lot of things that I think was very disappointing, to say the least. And a lot of times it just outraged me. It's had a history of prettifying North American and not North American, North African and Middle Eastern tyrants and dictatorships like Muammar Gaddafi and Bashar al-Assad,
Mm-hmm.
and basically showing a blind eye to Russia and China, and it's very disappointing. Like, and I've heard a pro Gaddafi line for many years. Like one of my when it began, like when I was a teenager and it began to get political, many of the people that I associated with were very pro Gaddafi, and which I don't think is justified looking back. And so this article basically has no criticism of that. In fact, it in a way it actually celebrates that. And they don't mention Syria at all, despite Syria being one of the biggest conflicts of this century. They had nothing to say about it. You know, it's like it was a major bloodbath, and so my big criticism of Glen Ford has been his positions in Libya and Syria.
Okay.
And basically his focus on only U.S. and European imperialism, which I think it's good to be critical and condemn U.S. and European imperialism, but I think it's important to be critical and condemn all imperialism.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Glen Ford's also kind of created illusions in the Green Party over the years, which is like a social democratic party. And yeah, it could be worse. But I think the Green Party has had the same problems in regards to Syria and Libya as Glen Ford. And so, yeah, so it's sad that he passed away, and I know he's done good work. I mean, I've definitely read a lot of BAR articles over the years. Some I actually agreed with, and others I completely disagreed with.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, I think it's important to recognize where things went wrong with him, and I don't think he ever recognized it publicly. You know, and in that regard, and what I've criticized him on, and yeah, and a lot of the Marxist community and the left in general, like I know Denver communists, you know, posted R.I.P. Glen Ford. They had nothing to say about how he's basically cheered on Gaddafi, massacred his own people, and basically, you know, plundered his own people, and or how he basically was a cheerleader for Assad and denounced the democratic uprising in Syria, and was basically a big part of this, you know, pro-Assadist movement.
And he didn't change. He didn't change his view on Syria at all.
Not that I know of.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I've never seen a big article. In fact, I looked at his website at BAR today, and there's still all this pro-Gaddafi bullshit about how Gaddafi was this great reformer and made Libya into a democracy, and you know, and raised the standard of living in Libya, you know, and it's like, it's just a bunch of freaking prettifying. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put my name next to that, you know, not without criticism.
Sure.
And I think it just goes to show what kind of half-wits there are in the fucking Marxist community, that there's so many people that are willing to do that.
Yeah. Good point. All
yes.
right.
So rest in peace, Glen Ford.
Yes. All right. Let's do you want to quickly cover Hasanabi's video here?
Yeah. So Hasanabi, there's so much to say about this guy, and
he's colorful.
He's a very colorful guy, and he's a celebrity. I know, you know, if you haven't heard of him, your head's been under a rock, basically, because as far as people in the Marxist community goes, he's like a complete rock star I'm not saying that like I envy him or anything. I mean, I'm a fan, but I mean, he's a rock star, and he's got like 30,000 followers. You know,
Yeah.
and like he's like the biggest streamer on Twitch.
Yeah.
And so.
All right. So this video, so he starts off by criticizing, Pelosi, saying that Biden can't eliminate student debt. So, and then he goes on about the Democratic Party and and eliminating student debt would be a home run. Same as legalizing weed.
Yeah, I mean,
see?
Those are just details.
Yeah. Do you see? So basically, do you see him do you see this as kind of like a pro, left wing part of like the Democratic Party? Why is
I think this video shows that Hassan.
What do you think his goal is with these kind of videos?
Here's the thing. I think this show, Hassan does not make these videos. Someone else makes it. He's streaming it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
These are all clips, basically.
Yeah.
And so I don't think he actually makes these. I think someone else makes them. I think maybe he makes a few and then they get edited or whatever.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure an editor makes these, and they're basically from clips from his Twitch.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a live feed all the time. And so,
yeah.
So he's just ranting, right? And he's reacting to stuff and just ranting. And he's, I admit he's good at it, but,
yeah.
But the problem with ranting is you don't always think about what you're talking about. But one thing
sure.
that I noticed is, he like around 11:15. Let's just play that, because I think that's like probably the most important part. So Hasanabi does talk about Marxism sometimes, right? And he's clearly interested in Marxism. And he seems to, sometimes he tries to give the impression that he's providing a Marxist perspective, right?
Yeah.
And maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Might be issue specific, but I think it's good that he's interested in Marxism. But like,
yeah, you can tell some of his streamers are getting pissed off with the way he's going with and there we go, one comment right there. Fuck you, Hassan, you Nazi on Twitch.
oh, where's that?
It's right on there on the commentary that's been sitting there for a while now.
Oh, in the YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
On it. They fucking hate it. And our messaging in the beginning seemed to be consistent. I really
Here we go.
Oh shoot.
Hit it
Sorry,
hard.
advertisement.
Breathe. Drive those arms.
thought that we were going to have a consistent message across the board where people were going to be advocating for social progress. I really thought that America was going to, or the Democratic Party was going to not capitulate to the Republican Party in any way, shape, or form. And I think I'm a little wrong. I've been very, very...
You think you're a little bit wrong, Hassan?
Yeah, a little bit.
You thought that the Democratic Party would not capitulate the Republican Party, because they never do that.
No.
Yeah, and so that I think is like the most important part of this whole clip.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he admits that he's wrong. But here's the thing, like, I think this demonstrates that Hassan has not shed all of his illusions in the Democratic Party.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what is his exactly? I mean, like, does he think that, you know, like we've covered with the Labour Party in the UK, does he have some sort of hope that there can be this this left wing of the Democratic Party that can take over and, you know, and become like a radical left wing, or radical, you know, like kind of what they want to accomplish, the left in the Labour Party, or, you know?
I mean, I don't really care about all the details, but the point is he still has illusions in the Democratic Party. He used to be like well, his uncle runs the Young Turks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is like basically an Al Franken type of show for the Democrats. It's, you know, like progressive Amy Goodman types.
Yeah.
And he started out working for the Young Turks as a commentator
Yeah. No,
for his uncle.
Know that.
And that's before he became a streamer.
Yeah.
And I think he still has a good relationship with his uncle. And so like that's why it's, you know, they're Turkish, right? And so like heritage. And so I think he you know, it's obvious he still has illusions in the Democratic Party. And then like I'll just play a little bit. I think there's a little bit more here.
Upset about the way that Democrats have operated around some of these issues, okay? Issues that like help the Democrats. Like people say, I fucking hate the Democratic Party. I want the Democratic Party to lose, whatever. I'm a fucking Russian operative or whatever the fuck, right? And I'm not one of those. I'm not like one of the fucking, you know, Jimmy Dore Andys out there. I understand the necessity to unfortunately work within the Democratic Party all the time. I understand the necessity to be pragmatic, but this is one of those
Okay. So he says, I'm not a Jimmy Dore Andy. I understand the necessity to work within the Democratic Party and to be pragmatic. And that should be like, you know, that's probably the rest of the most important stuff that he has to say. And so Jimmy Dore, I mean, we kind of know who he is. He's kind of marketed himself as much more anti-Democrat, right? More third party type, and you know, a lot of his audience are much more anti-Democrat. I think a lot of them are still liberal, but
Yeah.
you know, but here's the thing is, I don't think that Hassan has shed his illusions in the Democratic Party. Or really thought about this from a class perspective. And when he says like we have to be pragmatic, he's basically talking about, hey, we have to be able to work with the Democrats and give up our principles. That's what that means. It's surrendering our principles. And he later, I think later, he probably brings up the Republicans, you know, that always happens. It's like, hey, like we have to be pragmatic and support all these Democrats or the Nazis are going to take over. Right. And then he says, because the Democrats would never support the Nazis or do what the Nazis want, but then they always do. And so I like Hassan, actually, you know, or I want to like him, but I think it's important to, you know, and I know a lot of people like him, obviously. There's 30,000 people that follow him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, and I think he does try to be honest on these things. Whether he's right or wrong, it's different. But it's important to bring these things up. The fact that he still has illusions in the Democratic Party, that he thinks that it's important to work within the Democratic Party and to elect Democrats, and that he thinks that the Democrats are going to change things, or that they're not going to capitulate to the Republicans. Because like these are liberal ideas, right? They're not Marxist ideas.
Yeah.
There's nothing Marxist about that. Like, and the thing is, nobody's going to hold Hassan accountable politically in that regard. The liberals will not hold him accountable. Only Marxists can hold him accountable for that. You know?
Yeah.
That's it. The liberals aren't going to hold him accountable for something like that. The conservatives will not hold him accountable. They're not going to correct him on that. Only Marxists can correct him on that. And so, I think, now I think, just with Hassan, I think, like I said, if you haven't heard of him, you've been sleeping under a rock. I mean, I admit I've been sleeping under a rock for a while because I haven't heard of him before, like this year. But it's obvious this person, Hassan, is an influencer, is a big time influencer, and is very significant. He's, and people listen to him, and I think that Marxists need to be talking about him, and not ignoring him, like, because whether we like it or not, he's going to either give us a good name or a bad name.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would like for him to give us a good name.
Yeah. I mean, we got enough
Yeah.
people out there giving us a bad name. so yeah, that would be a breath of fresh air.
What do you think about that, Andrew?
about
Hassan.
him giving us a good name?
Well, yeah. Well, Hassan in general.
I like him. So yeah, I mean, I like him. I think it's good to it's good to cover. You were right that we, because my thought at first was that we were going to cover a little bit more further out of the left, but I think it was good to get that out of the way to specifically focus on, Marxists, hardcore, these Marxist groups, and a proper analyzation of what was being said within these groups. But, I think it's time to, I think it's a good time to start looking at people like these, and especially, I think he is a little bit, I think you're right, he is a little bit, he is farther left than probably, the Democracy Now, Amy Goodman types, but at the same time, he's got that ability to, to reach that, reach that crowd, and, and kind of
Right.
possibly start bridging that gap. In the meantime, the actual Marxist community needs to get their shit together.
Yeah, I mean, the Marxist community, in my opinion, is in shambles. But yeah, and
so
it's sad.
and that's the unfortunate thing that we've said, that it's gotten worse. But at the same time, I think more people are getting on board with these basic, what they know, basic fundamentals of, like,
right,
of Marxism and such. So I think there's a growth there in that area. So, but I mean, I think at the same time, obviously, it's important for the Marxist community to get their shit together, or else it's going to be pointless attracting all these people over there if there's no leadership or no direction for them to go in.
Well, yeah, there's no leadership or direction. It's like, well, like, I mean, I think it's important to criticize, like, people like Hassan.
Yeah.
But it's also important to recognize, look, like who is Hassan, right? He's someone that used to work for his uncle. He did some political commentary for his uncle in his 20s. I think he's still in his 20s. He's like 28 or something.
Yeah.
So he's not an old guy.
No.
And so he goes, he starts streaming on Twitch, like playing video games, and maybe occasionally doing commentary on Twitch privately. He gains a following. He gains more fans, and like, he does more commentary on Twitch. He leaves TYT to do Twitch full time, right? And like, well, who's on Twitch? Well, we've been on Twitch. There's a lot of degenerates on Twitch, right? right? I mean, and there's a lot of kids. There's a lot of younger people on Twitch because it started out as a video game platform, and so there's a lot of younger people on Twitch, and there's a lot of degenerates, and there's a lot of other streamers basically only stream video games, right? Or hot tub girls, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like, so if you're streaming full time, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, right? Or 60 hours a week or whatever, or 70 hours a week. And so you're in front of your computer all day long doing that, and you do some commentary or whatever. It's like, and you're a political activist, but then when you try to talk to other activists, they're usually all just liberal, like your uncle, who's a hardline Democrat, former Republican, or they're like conservatives, like Ben Shapiro type conservatives, like actual conservatives, like reactionaries. Or they're video gamers, right? Like they're the kids in your Twitch, your chat, like, and so those are your interactions. It's difficult to grow like that, I think, politically, and nobody's really challenging you, and so I think it's important to take a very patient perspective with people like Hassan, because as Marxists, we want to win them over completely, 100%, and we want to train them, because like they have a microphone, especially people like him. He has a microphone. He has an audience. You teach him how to, like more theory and how to agitate. Of course, you're going to be more successful. That's his profession. But in the state of the Marxist community right now, it's very problematic. And that needs to be. It just goes to show that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. All right. I think that's that'd be do it for this week.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for this week.
So yeah, probably about a little of the same next week. You're going to update us on the on tomorrow's rally and everything, and how the negotiations are going.
Yeah. I'll give an update on the rally and negotiations.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh yeah, and I posted our circuit notes on Reddit. So if anybody wants to add to that, also, you can go to our subreddit there, and I think I should. I forgot to pin it to the top, but I'll do that. I'll do that now. But if anybody has anything to add there, just type in the comments, and we'll keep adding to that circuit or whatever.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. Sounds good.
All right. See you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.